Okay, so fairy tale adaptations have gotten very, very popular the past few years. Now, especially, we have two fairy tale shows out right now, and we have two Snow White movies coming out. And I don't understand why, because besides the fact that maybe because it's public domain and you don't have to pay anyone to use these characters, but seriously, like, why are you like doing 5 versions of Snow White? Of all the things you could do a story about, you pick Snow White. Now, Once Upon a Time is the more popular one, and I have to say between the two, it's better for the most part. I mean, it's done by ABC Family, and basically the story of Once Upon a Time is that the evil queen from Snow White puts a curse on the fairy tale world, and they all get sent to Storybrooke, and their personalities get changed, and the situation is put in a certain way so that they will not get their happy endings. Like Prince Charming and Snow White are turned into, this guy named James and Mary Margaret, and they're all stuck in this fairy tale world where nothing changes. They don't grow up. They just kind of stay in stasis for their entire existence. However, when the curse was being put, Charming and Snow White were going to have a baby named Emma. And they made a deal with Rumpelstiltskin to figure out a way to have the baby escape Storybrooke and be the one to come back and fix what was going on. Now, in the future world, you have the character Emma Swan. She's their kid. She doesn't know she's a fairy tale character child. And she had a son named Henry who she gave to adoption when she was like 18 years old. This boy was adopted by the evil queen in her storybook form, where she's the mayor of the town named Regina. And Henry figures out that it's a fairy tale world. Well, what we think of the fairy tale world. So he goes to go find his mother and bring her back and tell her she has to stop, save the world from the evil queen. Of course, everyone thinks he's crazy because they don't know that this fairy tale world. You know what I mean. And so Emma comes because she wants to have a relationship with her son, and then she and Regina kind of have this conflict, and they're basically trying to, take her power away from her. At the same time, you have these flashbacks where you see the story of what happened to these fairy tale characters, and how basically we got from... We're working backwards towards, the point where the curse happens. Like, you're seeing how Prince Charming and, what's-her-face? Snow White got together, find out the background of Red Riding Hood, of Jiminy Cricket, and they're not the same. It's basically, because it's ABC and that's run by Disney, they can use the Disney names, Belle is called Belle and Beauty and the Beast, they have the same outfits. Those same things are brought in again. So it's basically they're reimagining the Disney versions of, the original fairy tales. The problem that I have with this show is that I don't know if it's good or not sometimes. Because the stories are all very... While they are twists, and some episodes are definitely better than others, and I do think it's a very catchy show, it, to me, has not gotten to a point where I feel like it's really great, It's good, and I can watch it, and I can enjoy it, but I find myself getting frustrated with the kind of repetitive nature of the show. I mean, I don't know how this will go on for more than one season, because it's not that kind of show where it's like, you are unraveling a mystery. We already know that Storybrooke is the fairy tale world turned modern. We already know that Henry is white. We already know that Regina is the evil queen. Those are not secrets. Those are facts. And we're just watching the character of Emma not figure that out. And it's frustrating to watch. And it's like, we all know what's going on. It's not interesting to see her not figure it out or her not getting it. And the fact that they still are trying to play it up like no one else knows besides Regina's character and Rumpelstiltskin's character, who is Mr. Gold in the real world, who is probably the best character on the show. It's not provoking on that level. And the lead, the woman who plays Emma, is not that riveting of a lead. She's kind of dry. Her and Henry are probably the weakest parts of the show. If anything, Regina and Mr. Gold are the best characters in the entire show. Although the fact that they keep popping in as every single villain in every fairy tale is kind of annoying. And I hope that they don't make them be the Ursula and thing character, because that's kind of bothersome. But they still are the most interesting characters in the show. More so Regina as the evil queen, because as you know, Regina, she's kind of like a one-note villain, but as the evil queen, she's a lot more interesting to watch. And there's a lot of interesting aspects of like the bad characters, but not so much the fairy tale good characters. In the fairy tale world, they're very traditional who they're supposed to be. Some things are changed, but overall, it's pretty much what you see is what you get. In the modern world, they're kind of changed so that like they're not, like Prince Charming is not brave. He's kind of a coward in the modern day version, and the more he becomes more like his original self, the clearer his memories get and stuff like that. But at the same time, those stories aren't as interesting as the fairy tale stories, and to have to keep going back and forth the entire time is kind of annoying, because you really don't care about the modern day story. At least I find I don't. I don't care about what's going on in Storybrooke. I want to know what's going on in Fairy Tale Land, because that's what's interesting. Storybrooke is not. It's not creative enough on that level to keep drawing you in. And there's only so much that they can do with this premise. And to be quite, I'll mention this towards the end about the whole thing with Fables. But I don't know how the story is going to keep going. I think that it's starting to get a little bit better with the last episodes that have been coming out. But still, it's like, you're not really doing anything so creative that you are blowing me away. But it's still interesting enough that I can find myself coming back to just see what goes on. And maybe skip through the parts I don't really care about. However, with Grimm, which is another fairy tale show, alright. So basically, Grimm is about, the Grimm brothers were basically slayers, and they are, when they were collecting all those fairy tales or whatever, they were really documenting all these different creatures and basically slaying them and destroying them. And when you are a Grimm, you can see them in their true form. Like sometimes they look like snake people or rat people or wolf people. Now, the main character, Nick, is the newest in the Grimm line, and he is a cop, and he and his partner and his blue bloodin, who's kind of like the big, they're like werewolves, partner Monroe, are the ones who are trying to like figure all these things. But Hank doesn't know that he's a Grimm. You know, they keep the whole mystery. So it's kind of a cop show, kind of a supernatural show. And I'm waiting for the show to give me a reason to care about it from more than just a episode by episode basis. Because there's no mega plot yet. Like, you know there's a villain, you know all that kind of stuff, but there's nothing really carrying over. Like, there's no ultimate goal they're fighting for right now. It's kind of monster of the week. And like, that's fine in the beginning, but then you have to bring in the big bad. Like, what I liked about Buffy is that, like, you have first few episodes are, like, fun, training up, then, at a certain point, everything is leading up to the big bad. We're about halfway there, and we know there's a big bad, but it's still episode by episode by episode something happening, like a cop drama. But then it's not a really strong cop drama to begin with. It's like, it hasn't blended the two elements together to make it really strong as a piece. And the only character really worth following in Grimm, besides the aunt who is now dead, is Monroe. And that's it. Like, there's nothing to me that makes that show really stand out, really interesting. Like, I hate the effect that they do when they, like, transform into, like, their fairy tale or, like, Grimm form. I can't stand it because they look, it's really bad CGI. It looks horrible when I watch it. And I'm just like, I don't understand why you did this. It looks really, really bad. And the characters aren't really provoking besides Monroe. The storytelling isn't the strongest. It's not that good yet. Some of the episodes are better than others. Like, the episodes themselves aren't horrible, but there's nothing to make you watch week by week. Say like, oh, what creature are they doing? And other than that, there's no overarching plot that's going on. And so I can't find myself caring as deeply as I do about something like Once Upon a Time, where there is an overarching plot. There is a meta plot. There is something going on above all the other Monster of the Week stuff that's constantly tied in. And that's what makes that show stronger, even though it has some weaker aspects between the two of them. You know, Once Upon a Time while it has a lot more fluff and cliches than Grimm does, it still has a stronger story going on than Grimm, and that is what makes it better. Plus, you're using characters that people already know. You have all these kind of like other things that people aren't really familiar with Grimm, and that kind of makes it hard to connect to on another level, because it's not like characters we know, it's just random people, and it makes it a less structured story. And I really want to like Grimm, because I like cop dramas, and I like, Grimm's fairy tales, but it has not done anything yet to bring it. But it has not done anything yet to really make it one solid show. So I'm not really sold on Grimm. And I haven't watched it in a while because I've been reading reviews about it. I'm waiting for the mega plot to come in. I want to be into it, but I can't just watch like they fight like one it's a giant spider monster, one it's a wolf monster, one it's a bear monster. Like, what do I need to do that for? Like, it's not that interesting. Now, the thing I don't understand is just like, okay, you have Once Upon a Time, and you got Grimm. What I don't understand, well, I kind of get why, but I don't know why it didn't just make Fables into a show. I know people are going back and forth between, they're not the same. Look, basically the plot of Once Upon a Time and Fables and Grimm are all kind of similar. The whole cop aspect and mystery thing, you got that in Fables. The whole they were banished from their fairy tale world into the real world, you got that in both of them. I don't know why I didn't just do Fables and make an HBO or something series or Showtime or AMC about that. I mean, you'd have to pay money for, pay it to DC Vertigo, but you'd have a strong audience. You still have the familiar characters, even more so because you've got like Robin Hood. It's not just tied to Grimm or Disney. It's all fairy tales, all of them connected. So you could have more people of color in both of these shows. You could have, more dynamic stories, darker stories, because it has those adult aspects and those fun childish aspects of the show. And I think that they miss an opportunity because you have two shows that, while have good premises, are not weak enough to stand by themselves. Like, I don't know how Grimm is going to last another season. I don't know what another season of Once Upon a Time is going to be like because I don't see what they're going to do with the show. With Fables, there are so many stories in it that have an overarching theme. Like, each volume will have its own mega plot, and then you have little side stories with team. You can have that for seasons and seasons and seasons of shows, and you can get rid of mixed characters in because you have so many to work with. It would have been a perfect idea for this new fairy tale theme, but because they already have these two out, they're probably not going to do Fables now, and I don't understand why. That would, to me, would have been the best way to go, because both these shows, if they were put together, they would be Fables. In a nutshell. Take out maybe the whole Grimm Hunter bullshit, and they would be the same thing. So I don't really know why they didn't go that route. Besides, maybe they didn't want to pay money to Vertigo, but I think that's bullshit. You might as well. Everyone right now has a TV book adaptation out. I mean, goddamn, it's not that a big a deal. But I feel like if you had to choose between Grimm and Once Upon a Time, I feel like Once Upon a Time, while it's cheesy, it's a better show than Grimm is. But either way, they both aren't strong enough that I feel like they're necessary. Like, I feel like I'd rather get rid of both of them and just have Fables. And I know that's kind of like, well, you shouldn't judge them together. Well, how can I not? They're doing basically the same thing. And I can't help but feel like if they had a more structured thing to work with, like a pre-existing content, it would be a better show. Both of them would be, because they're both very weak in how they handle a lot of their underlying plots. So that's just me.